it is very freeing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Progress with Portia, where we have real conversations to progress individuals and communities. I'm excited today to have Mr. Trey Virdure. Did I say it correct?
Yeah, Trey Virdure. Yeah.
Okay. I'm so excited to have him with me today. He is also known as the Clippers King. So he is in the Baton Rouge area. If you need your hair, I'm going to say clipped. If you need your hair cut. But yeah, he's excellent at the work he does. And that's actually how I met Mr. Trey. So I was getting my hair done. I was getting these locks in. And the young lady who was doing my hair, she shared with me about how he blessed her with the opportunity to work in his shop. And she was like, yeah, maybe you can get your son's haircut there. I already had someone in mind that I wanted to cut my hair. But lo and behold, I found out it was the Clippers King. And so, but what happened as I'm there and I'm listening, small world, definitely. And it got even smaller as you were telling me, your wife is from the same community I grew up in Colorado.
Exactly. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
But yeah, so he, as I'm in the shop, I was hearing Trey and I was listening to him, and Progress with Portia is all about having intentional conversations. And what I noticed about him is that he had intentional conversations with those who were in the shop, also with the young lady who was working with him. He seemed very much to be a mentor, a teacher, a leader, someone who took educating people very seriously, making sure that to kind of pull out the strengths in others. And I was really just amazed to see how intentional he was to pour into others, and it really was a blessing. And so, Trey, I really do admire that aspect about you. And it's just been a short time that I've only been there twice, but you did have such an impact on me those times that you were kind of talking to the different clients, and as well to the young lady who was working with you. So welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Portia. Definitely just thankful to be on the platform. Thankful that you invited me. And yes, I'm not sure I'm all those great things that you mentioned, but I am intentional. I do try to move with intention. I am very thankful for just my calling to just share information and to just give energy and to receive energy as well, and to learn different things. And I've been blessed, and so it's a blessing to be here. Thank you for having me, and I'm ready to get started.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about finances. And so one of the conversations that I did over here and him talking about was just how intentional he was about finances, the wisdom that he's kind of gathered through the years, about investing, about business in general. And so today we just wanted to talk about finances. And so Trey, why don't you start out a little bit by just explaining to us when you were maybe growing up, what was your exposure to knowledge about finances? Did you grow up in a household where they talked a lot about it? Did you grow up in a household with a lot of finances? What was that? What was your life growing up with finances?
Okay, so that's a great question. Again, this is conversations. By the way, let me just put out a disclaimer. I am not a professional, so this is not professional advice. We're just having a conversation, and I'd like to tell you some things from my personal experience that worked for me. And so now with that said, let's get into the question. So in my household, Portia, I mean, look, I had some access to, I didn't have a lot of access to finance itself. I did see investing up close later on, but earlier on, this was not a normal conversation. I think when I was a kid, my parents were very old school in the sense that they sort of did the whole, that's not a child's place.
Yeah.
Sort of had that thing going, and that went for a lot of things, by the way. It wasn't just finance, but they didn't really want you in that business. They didn't want you in the business. They weren't very transparent about what they had, so to speak, and there was definitely a clear line in the sand of what was appropriate to talk about and what wasn't. So growing up, I didn't really have, it wasn't normalized in my house to talk about finance. You want me to expound upon this? Because I can.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so the difference between the way, listen, I think that everybody can go back, as a child and say, hey, look, parents didn't do this or that or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I'm pretty sure in their minds, they felt as if they were doing the best that they can, and they were moving with intention as well. So just put that disclaimer out there. However, things are meant to evolve. Things are meant to get better over time. And so, of course, I brought into my parental experience the things that I felt worked for me as a child and worked in my overall development. And then I wanted to add some things that I felt were missing. With that said, I definitely want to add financial, economic component to my parental experience. I wanted to bring it to my children, bring it to my household. I wanted to normalize the financial conversation at our kitchen table and just in the car or whatever. And so that's something that was very intentional by me and my wife as well. It's talk, but it definitely spearheaded by me. And
that's good. Something that you talked about. I mean, just that foundational principle. Let's just have conversations about it. Let's talk about what does money look like? What do we do with money? How do we spend it? What's the purpose and intention of money? And I know one of the things that you wanted to talk about too is just the psychology of it. I think you mentioned something about the psychology of how we think about it. When did you see a transition in how you looked at money? So you were a young man, when you were going out, maybe 18, 20, what did you know? Did you invest money? Did you save? Did you feel like, there was a season in your life that you didn't do well with money? And then what?
Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. Portia, I always talk about how if I had the knowledge and the willingness to move on the knowledge and to apply the knowledge that I had, man, I don't know if we would have met. Because I definitely probably would be somewhere different, doing something different. Maybe I would be in the same spot. But I do think that in retrospect, looking at those times, I feel like you get everything in the season that you're supposed to get it, right? So whenever I got it, I'm just happy that I was able to come upon the knowledge and, use the wisdom that I have now, and apply that knowledge. I always refer to wisdom as the application of knowledge. You can have the two separate things. And so, yeah, man, look, man, when I was, in my 20s, man, I blew through money. I had plenty of opportunities, plenty of money to pass through my hands, and so on and so forth. And like many other people out there, and just looking back on those times, I definitely didn't have the information. There were some key points I want to talk about with that, though.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. And as you're looking that up, I think, like I said, some of the things that you have said that I think are vital for us as we are having the conversation is, one, to acknowledge where we're at, like to acknowledge and to be humble to say that, you know what, I may not know as much, or maybe I know it, but maybe I need to start taking steps forward and not. And what, there are different things that can make people hesitate. It could be fear, it could be lack, fear could be the number one thing.
Fear could be the number one. So here's a good saying about that, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because fear might be the number one thing. Right. Okay. But I think fear comes from just the unknown, right?
Exactly.
And I always tell my apprentice, who you were referring to earlier, that I gave the opportunity at my shop. I tell her constantly, I'm like, look, it's a lot easier to buy into the principle if you can see the promise behind the principle, right? So you can tell somebody, and this is probably what my issue was, and maybe even your issue, and maybe a lot of people's issue was younger getting the information without the promise. You know what I mean? Or without being able to see clearly the promise, right? Somebody would tell you, I remember people used to tell me about saving money. And to me, I just couldn't get with, look, my answer to that, to not having money, was make more money. You know what I'm saying? It's not about saving, big dog. It's about, I need more money. I need to make more money. I need to generate more income. And I couldn't have been more wrong about that. But also, I don't feel like saving was the answer as well.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I actually was right and wrong at the same time. But
I'm gonna say right there, that's good, because sometimes we can think because we're right, that it stops us from moving forward, because there was an aspect of that might have been correct. That saving wasn't really the direction you felt like you should go. So it's like, well, I could easily reject any information about any financial wisdom or guidance. It's like, with the part I'm hearing doesn't fully make sense to me.
Correct.
So then I stay where I'm at.
I stay where I'm at, and you're exactly right. That's exactly right. And so what you do is, it's sort of a rebellion against, just the institutional idea of saving. You know what I mean? And it's like, man, that don't work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not about to be with the saving. I don't see where that works. I don't have no money to save, right? And a lot of people would say that. And so for me, saving was definitely not something that attracted me financially or otherwise. And so I guess the difference now is that, first of all, let's talk about unlearning and relearning, right? I had to unlearn some things for myself, and so that I can be a vessel to my family to bring the knowledge in and make practical, everyday examples of what we are to be doing with money and how we view money. I think typically, a lot of us come from situations where we didn't have a lot coming up. You know what I'm saying? So what we tend to do is we tend to hoard money.
Yeah.
When you get it, you just it's just locked tight. You know what I mean? You get a few things you want, get a few things you need, whatever. But you tend to hold on to the money. We look at the money as a fruit, right? I would say, like, let's just say, for instance, an orange, right? You look at money as an orange, okay? And I can get me a bunch of oranges, you know what I mean? And I'm gonna put them all, and I'm gonna save them. I got all the oranges, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm an orange man, you know what I'm saying? And that's a super corny example, but I'm going somewhere with that. Inside that orange, really, the seeds is what's important. Money is a seed, more so than it is a fruit. It's actually a seed, and a fruit has both, right? So you have the oranges, and inside the oranges are the seeds, right? But we never look at it's sort of a dual component to money, and like we tend to focus only on one component of money, and that is using it to spend, right? We don't see it as a seed, we don't see. So I think just culturally, what I wanted to do with my family is show us that, hey, let's stop looking at money as to what it can get us in terms of commerce, in terms of the marketplace, right? Because there is a place for money in the marketplace. But let's stop looking at money in terms of like what it can buy us, and look at it in terms of a seed. Like, how much more money can we grow from it? So when I was talking to you earlier about unlearning and relearning and bad psychology and adopting new habits, well, that's one. One is to stop looking at money as just something that can help you get the car, get the house, get the girl, get the guy. I don't know, whatever it is you're trying to do. Get the recognition or whatever that is that you're looking for. All of those are emotional attachments to money that don't produce tangible dividends, right? But if you can unlearn that and look at money as a seed, and say, hey, look, if I plant this here, if I plant it there, I can take this money and allow this money to work for me. and make me more money. So just one example of bad psychology as it pertains to money, Portia.
Yeah, that's good. And I recently, something you made me think about when you were saying that is I recently heard someone say, just similar to what you were saying about how we were taught incorrectly about money, about saving, and they were saying that they learned to make your to make every dollar work for you, and it's a
Right.
similar thing that you're saying is like that seed, and what else you can grow is basically they said that every dollar has to work for them. I had to work for this dollar. So, and I don't remember who it was I was listening to. They said, now this dollar has to go work for me. And it
It
was
has
like,
no
well,
work for me. It's an employee.
right. And they said, like, how they, when you put your money in the bank, they invest it. They say, if you try to go
Yeah.
get a large sum of money out the bank, you got to give them notice because they put your money in investment. So why are you just letting it sit in the savings when they're investing it? And that's what we should be doing. And, as one of the things we could be doing with our money.
So you're absolutely right. So when we were at the shop and we kind of touched on the same subject, I brought up some of these same points about just investing your money. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about investments though, real quick. Just before we move on to the next topic, because I think it's very important. Like I can tell you, oh, it's a seed or whatever, but if I don't tell you, I'll give you some ideas as to what to do with it, then it's sort of a mute point to make, right? All right. So here are some things that work for me. Number one, I promote entrepreneurship. Okay, the owning of your own business, product, or service, right? Okay, it can be intellectual property, it can be a product, it can be a service. But I promote entrepreneurship. That is an investment in self.
That's good.
Okay, it's an investment in your idea, right? And of course, there's strategy and execution with that, right? But then there's other investments like real estate, right? So everything that I'm naming, I'm investing in, right? So I own real estate. I'm in the stock market. I'm heavy in both. Okay.
Right.
I'm heavy in entrepreneurship and in business. I have businesses that I own by myself. I have businesses that I'm partners. And I have now a venture capital group. So we're doing that as well. These are things that I feel like you can definitely take your disposable income, put your money into these spaces, and if you do it the right way and you have some education on it, you can definitely see the growth, short and long term. To be honest with you, but these are some things that have worked for me. Let's talk about the stock market just a little bit.
Yeah.
So, how the stock market was explained to me to make it make sense to you guys that are not engaged in buying stocks or trading and things like that. It was simply like this. Number one, like you said, to your point, why would you put your money in a savings account and you're not going and they're going to pay you 0.000009% on that money a year that's sitting there, and you think it's sitting there, but it's not sitting there. What the bank is doing, they're actually investing the money into the stock market for themselves, right? And they're not paying you anything on this money. You're not getting a dividend at all, right? So I personally do not practice a savings account. Now, what I have is I have an emergency fund, and I call it a slush fund, and my slush fund is for times of emergency, if I have some extra expenses, some medical bills, some car bills, just different things that can come up throughout, in life that I need some extra money for. So I have a slush fund for that. I don't expect it to yield anything. It's just for, what I'm saying? I do have it in a high interest savings account, but it's not there in order to make me money or to grow my personal wealth. It's just there for emergencies, and it's like sort of a safe place to put it. I do use the stock market as my personal savings account.
Wow, that's good. Mm-hmm.
That's what I do. I invest all the time. I look at what they call in the stock market the fundamentals. Look at the fundamentals of a company. I decide whether I do my due diligence, decide whether or not a company is worth investing in, and then I go with it. I do have a group of guys that I'm blessed with that I consult with about different options, and I go from there. And I've seen exponential growth there. I've seen the most growth that I've ever seen in my life in those spaces, right? Same thing with real estate. I've rental property, short and long-term leases, and it bodes well. You know what I mean? I mean, there's some management involved, but at the end of the day, it's worth the investment. So, looking at your money as a seed is very important. It's very important because then again, you can make your money an employee of yours. And I'm trying to think of where that concept came from. Was that Rich Dad Poor Dad?
It might have come. So I was listening to a conversation of someone on, I don't know if it was Instagram, YouTube, but then they shared it. So it could have come from that book that they were talking about.
I think so. I mean, I read the book, but it's been a minute since I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, but a phenomenal book. First of all, if I can recommend a book, definitely that one, Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you have not read that and you're interested in financial literacy, I mean, it's a must.
Yeah, it's on Audible for me right now, so I'm listening to it.
Yeah. There's so much good stuff that we can talk about, Portia. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just so much good material financially that we can cover. And I know we only have a limited amount of time.
Actually, do a lot right there, and I feel like there could be a class. Well, it really could be a class for each one. For all of those.
No, it really could. And I don't want to get too far off topic, but I also didn't want to leave. I didn't want to sort of mention things without let's sip of water. I didn't want to mention things without giving, like, I didn't want to mention like an idea and then not give any like solutions or places where you can start to research the space and see where you can start to put your money. So my things are these three things: entrepreneurship, so invest in your ideas, invest in your intellectual property, right? Invest into real estate. It always goes up over time. Period. It goes up and down, like it fluctuates just like any market, but it always goes up in the long term. So if you're talking about long-term investment, real estate for sure. If you're talking about the stock market, long-term investment. Now, I'm not a trader. I just want to make that distinction. I don't trade. I'm not a day trader. I do trade stocks, but I'm not. I am an investor. So the difference is that trading is a job. I'm not looking for a job. I have a job. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not looking for a job, but so trading is not my thing. But if you can make a lot of money trading as well. So if you have the time, definitely look into that. It's a little more risky, but I'm an investor. I like to take my money and put it in places where I can get some equity long term, and that's what investors are. You know, we see something, we're like, hey, there's value there, and while it's small, I want to get in, and then as it grows, I get to grow with it. You know, it's free money.
And so when you're saying the trading, that's people who like will buy and sell their stock, like they'll buy and jump out when they think it's gonna go down or whatever. So they're
correct.
Okay.
So it's a lot of movement there. You know what I mean? It's a lot of what they're doing is they're cash grabbing, right? So when stocks inflate, they cash grab. They'll take a lot off the top, right? And then they'll wait for the stock to fall, right? And then when it falls, then they'll buy back in at the lower price, right? So that's a profit. You know what I mean? And you know, look, if you have time to look at the computer all day and figure out all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, more power to you. A lot of people find it interesting and things like that. I'm not against it. You know, and for me, I like the idea of investing long term better. I like the idea of saying, hey, here's this little company that looks like Amazon right now. You know what I'm saying? But they have this type of they're different in this way, and I believe in that difference, and I think that's gonna make a difference long term. And I'm gonna invest in them now, and then while they're at $17, you know what I mean, and then when they're $1,700, you know what I mean. You see what I'm saying? And so that's kind of what I look for, in the stock market. But yeah, man, we have to stop looking at money as to what we can buy with it. There's two type of people generally. You have the people that buy their life, okay, and then you have the people that invest in their life. And those are two different things. I mean, they yield two totally different results. And the main difference is the person who's going out and they're going to work and they're going to buy their groceries, and then they're going to get the things they need for their house, and then they're paying for their bills and things like that, right, Portia? I mean, they're spending all of their liquidity on their life, right? And then once all the needs are met, then they're like, oh, I want to go out this weekend. Oh, I think I want to try this new restaurant. I think I want to do this. That's fine and well, but then you need to go back to work Monday morning because you spent all the money. You know what I'm saying? So now and it's a vicious cycle. So that's what you're doing. And then you have the other person who's got the same job as you, right? But their decision making is different. What they're doing is they know about the promise and the principle of investing. And so what they're doing is they're saying, hey, I'm not going to go to the restaurant this weekend. I'm not going to go out this weekend. I'm going to take my disposable income and I'm going to invest it. And what happens over time is their investments, they're making so much money from their investments that their investments can buy their life. The investments is paying the house note, it's paying the car notes. Like literally the money that comes in from their paycheck is just going in their pocket. Like it's just, and what they're probably doing is investing it too, right? And so their investments are actually paying for their lives. And this is where I am in life. My investments pay for my life. You know what I mean? I've made investments over time. I'm continuing to make investments, and they pay for my vacations, anything elaborate that I do. I mean, I used to buy my life too. I got a closet full of bad decisions. You know what I'm saying? Gucci shoes, belts, all this other shit. I got it. You know what I'm saying? I use that stuff to remind me. You know what I mean? Of what I was doing before. I changed my mentality and I changed my approach, and I started believing, in the promises behind investing and using money as a seed instead of just splurging it every time I got a lump sum. You know what I mean? And so, yeah.
I think that distinction between trading and investing, I think, was an important one for people too who deal with the fear, because sometimes some of the greater risks that they're hearing, or not to say that there's no risk, because there's always going to be a risk, but right. Greater risks that we hear about are those who may be trading and who may be, jumping in and out of markets, or even someone who started out investing but got scared when they saw the market, the fluctuation of the market, because
right. Exactly.
Supposed to let it sit and don't worry about all that fluctuating, because eventually it's, unless the company's going to tank or something, but outside of that, that you're supposed to let that money sit. And even when you talk about the mindset shift, which when I'm in a place where I'm learning about all of this and kind of trying to get to, I've spent a lot of time learning, but really I guess I'm in the phase where I need to start acting on it.
Right.
Uncle who made it rich off the stock market. It's my great uncle, and so he's talked to the family about stock. For graduation gifts, he gives us all an investment in a stock, and so, but it's still like that hesitation of just getting in the market, just taking those first steps. But we had a family Zoom call recently where they actually were walking us through step by step what is about the stock market, how to buy it, what it looks like, and just every little thing we needed to know to buy. But one of the things my uncle mentioned, he said that you said something that made me think about it. He said when he was getting ready to send his kids to school, he made an investment like for college, because he realized he wasn't where he needed to be with it. So he had to some of his investments, and that's where he got. And I said, I've never heard anybody say that. Like, I just blew my mind. I was like, what? And I was like, man, it's like having a conversation. Here he's in my family. I didn't know this, but we're being intentional about the content. And we just never know the wealth of knowledge that is around us and how it can shift our lives just by the conversation we're having and making sure we're asking the right questions and not, I don't know, like, but just hearing you say all of that and that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, some other classes I was in, they were talking about before you start anything, you have to shift the way you think about money, which is what a lot of what you're breaking down. And that mentality shift is important before you do anything. And so that's why I'm listening to that. But it's just been, I mean, everything you're saying has been really great. And it's
no, man, not to cut you off. I mean, absolutely. I appreciate that. I think it's just necessary, man. I'm not saying anything that I haven't gone through myself. You know what I mean? This is really all my personal like experience that I'm bringing here. You know what I mean? This is not something that I'm per se just read out of a book or whatever. I'm telling you what happened with me. I was the same as you. At one point, I didn't know a damn thing about the stock market. You know what I'm saying? I just heard about it all my life, and I didn't understand what the NASDAQ was, and the S&P 500, and all this stuff. I'm like, you hear the financial portion of the news, man, turn the news up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do not know what any of that means. You know what I mean? And to that. But what I will say too, just to emphasize the point about the two different types of the main two different types of people out there, the ones that's buying life versus investing in life. The people that's buying in life, number one, most of them are just uneducated in the space. So what we're doing right now, just having the conversation about it, is very important, and that's why I thank you, for everything that you're doing, because at the end of the day, just having a conversation about it is going to be the spark. This is how we normalize things. This is how things become, normal in our lives, and things that we come into the knowledge and the understanding, and then we come into the actionable items and things like that by just starting with the conversation and elaborating on the idea, right? So most people that just buy life, you know what I mean? They're just uneducated in the space, right?
Yeah.
They're emotional spenders and emotionally undisciplined, right? Because every time something bad happens, they take money that they really should be investing, right? And they go buy the car. They go get another car note. Oh, that new this out. I'm gonna go get that. You really don't need a new car. Like, your car, 4 years old, you know what I mean? And it might not be the newest car out, but nothing is wrong with it. It's getting you from point A to point B. You know what I'm saying? If you keep it clean, it looks decent or whatever. Or if something you have a bad day at work, people do shop therapy. They get online and buy it all. You know what I'm saying? I'm guilty of it. A lot of people are guilty of this. I know this because I've been through all of this. You know what I mean? You wear something, how they say, look better, feel better, right? So you go get you some new stuff. You want to look better, go get your hair done, go do all this stuff, right? And so that becomes a vicious cycle, just being emotionally undisciplined, being, an emotional spender. And somebody who is, you know what? Hold on one second.
Everyone, well, that concludes the first episode of the Finance Edition with Trey Virdure, the Clippers King, better known as the Clippers King. That was an amazing episode. I really enjoyed even going back and listening to the conversation. I enjoyed it the first time, but going back and listening to it again, he dropped some gems in there, a wealth of knowledge. I didn't mean to pun on words, but yes, we're talking about wealth building. And so he did drop a wealth of knowledge. And so we want to make sure as we're leaving away from this conversation that we are intentional about how we talk about money and how we deal with money. Listen, I'm here, I'm growing with you. So I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed. And if you've already passed this stage, you might want to have a conversation with me to share what you know with other people, but there's always room to grow, right? And so we want you. This conversation was a foundational setting to change our mindset and how we think about money and how we handle money. And so, again, at the end of every episode, we want you to look at how can I take this information and how can I begin to see progress in my life in this area. So, what we want you to do after this episode is to really take an internal reflection and really sit there, think about and assess what is your mentality on money. Trey talked about some things in the video. And so based off of the information he shared, where do you stand with your relationship with money? Are you spending your money? Are you investing your money? Where are you? Then we want to be intentional about our conversations and look at your household. How do we interact as a household with money? I listened to a pastor today, and he was talking about how God didn't want us to be in debt. And one of the steps he included was the whole house has to be involved. And so if you're trying to invest, he said, and you're trying to save, you can't have one person doing that and the other person sneaking out, buying things and hiding them in the closet. And so we need to make sure that the whole house is on one accord. We want to look at how are you conversing with your children? What are you teaching your children? Trey touched on that, saying how his family didn't, they said that's not for kids. But it's very much important that we're sowing seed and giving our kids the knowledge they need and how to think about and how to interact with money. And then lastly, he talked about a book and, having some book knowledge. And so reading books to kind of change. So one of the books he mentioned was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so if you haven't read the book, then we encourage you to read it. But if you have read it, there are plenty of other books that you can look at related to finance. So begin to do some research, begin to find books, and begin to talk with other people. But I'm excited about the other half of the conversation. So we'll be posted next week. I do apologize that there was a delay in posting the video this week. There's going to be a few weeks of some transition for me, but just know that I am working on some things. I'm getting some things in place and in order, but it is not an intention to neglect the videos. And so, but it is actually an area of growth and progress that I'm beginning to work on. And so I appreciate your patience, me getting this conversations out with you. But now it is time for the dedication segment. So I'm so excited about that. The dedication segment, as you all know, or you may not know if you're first time watching, but the dedication segment is a time for individuals to write a letter to someone. It could be a love letter, a letter of encouragement, a poem. It could be a prayer. It could be a closure letter, an apology. It could be a letter to someone deceased. It is the purpose of it is to spread positivity, to spread love, to encourage connection with those who we love, but also it is an opportunity to expose those who may not be used to people expressing their feelings, for them to hear other people expressing their feelings and emotions. And again, even the person who's writing, sometimes they may not be, it's not a typical way that they express themselves. And so it may be an opportunity for them to grow and stretch themselves and expressing themselves in a way that they don't typically do to the ones who they love around them. So today I'm very excited. I have Brandon Patterson with me. He is my cousin's new husband. And so I'm excited to have him join the family, but I'm going to add him on. Hello, Brandon. How are you doing?
I'm good, Portia. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining me. And again, I just am so excited. I just attended Brandon and Chantel's wedding. It was so amazing. Off the charts. Like everything was beautiful, perfect from beginning to end. Like a fairy tale wedding.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so this letter today is actually from Brandon, of course, to his bride. It's called, he entitled it A Letter to My Bride. And so I'm going to let him read and share his letter with us.
Sure. So, to the woman of my dreams on our wedding day, Chantel, I thank God every day for you. I am truly not worthy of your presence. You are the rhythm to my blues, the wind beneath my wings, and rightfully the queen to my castle. There has not been a creation of words that could express my love and admiration for you. This journey that we will embark on together will be full of adventures, twists and turns, and resets. However, I could never imagine going through this crazy journey without you by my side. As we walk out of this chapel as one, you will now be the queen of my heart. And just like I know, my mom knows that my heart is in good hands. All I want to do for the rest of my life is to praise God and provide and protect you until my dying day. I may not be perfect, even though I act like I am, but I know with you, I am whole. Together, we are a well oiled machine, and every day you make me want to and strive to become a better version of myself. Thank you for loving me when you didn't have to and trusting me when you didn't want to. Today is a special day because not only do I marry my hero, I'm also marrying my best friend.
Oh, so beautiful. So I'm so excited for my cousin and for Brandon and the love that they have found. Anybody who knows me knows I love love. I love Black love. I love marriage. And so I'm really excited about this journey that they are on, that they have begun together. And I'm so thankful that I was able to participate in the wedding and to witness it and to meet Brandon in person. And so thank you so much, Brandon. That was a beautiful letter. And I love to hear, like I said, we love to hear it. We love to see it. Black love, Black men honoring and loving their women, that there are Black men who do honor love, who respect love, who respect their relationships. And so again, thank you so much. And just before we close out, again, you all, we have some great conversations coming up. And so Trey, we have another episode of the Finance Edition coming next week. Be on the lookout. We will have an opportunity to have a virtual conversation with Trey. So anyone who has questions about finances, who just wants to discuss things, maybe you want to talk about ideas for talking about finances with your children, if you want to run thoughts or questions by him, want resources or anything of the nature, we will have that. And so be on the lookout for that information. After that, after Trey's conversation, we will be having some conversations. There will be a conversation on grief. And so women, I will be talking to a few women, several women who have lost their husband. They're young Black women who have experienced a death and losing their spouse. And so we will have a discussion. It's not, of course, it is a tough subject. It's hard, but these women have, they have walked in a level of grace and just seeing God keep them through this. And so they will be sharing not just sadness, but also how God has kept them. They'll share the things that they've accomplished. And so it's going to be a great conversation. Grief is something we all experience on any level. So you may not have experienced grief on this level, but it is something we all will experience. And there will be some similarities and some things that we can do to overcome and walk through that period and find strength in each other and strengthen our journey. Then I do have some more great conversations coming up. I have a conversation with well, I'll share it later. So, but there's some exciting conversations. So be on the lookout, y'all. Thank you again for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Make sure you comment, and we'll be back with you soon.